Peter Marcus of the Palestinian Media Watch. Some people refer to them as terrorists, other people call them role models. And Palestinians have named sports arrangements, schools, and so on for them. Why is this a dangerous technique?
The Palestinian Authority practice of naming sporting events and summer camps and streets after terrorists who've killed sometimes dozens of civilians is giving a horrific message to the Palestinian society. It's telling them that someone like Dalal Moghubi, a woman terrorist who hijacked a bus where 37 civilians were killed, and then she has many, many places throughout the Palestinian areas named for her, including summer camps. The Palestinian Authority Fatah Women's Union of university students is called Dalal Sisters. All of these things are giving a message. Excuse me. All these things are sending a message to Palestinian youth that killing of 37 civilians on a bus is an act worthy of honor.
Is this something that is only in Palestinian media, or does the rest of the world know this?
The Palestinian Media Watch started publicizing this actively in the last few months, when there has been, it seems like, a large increase in this role modeling by Palestinian Authority. It seems like now that the world is putting pressure on them to stop calling for murder and terror actively, what they've done is they've changed the tactic of glorifying of terror. And they're sending the same message to the people in support of terror, but they're doing it through the glorification of terror. And it's coming from the top. We have people like Mahmoud Abbas, the president, who defends the naming of a square after the terrorist Dalal Moghubi, who killed 37. We had Salam Fayyad, the prime minister, just this month sponsor a fencing tournament named after Abu Jihad, also a terrorist. In fact, he was the terrorist commander who was responsible for that hijacking. So the worse the terrorist, the more number of people who have been killed, the more likelihood that there'll be many places in the Palestinian areas named after that terrorist.
But has this been reported in international media?
Yes, the media, I would say, woke up in the last few months. This is actually a phenomenon that's been happening for years. We've been reporting it. In the last few months, it has received a tremendous amount of exposure, and it's deserving of that kind of exposure. And we're hoping that the media will keep up that pressure, because unfortunately, today we see the Palestinians have not yet responded to that media pressure. This continues literally until today. With just a few days ago, there was another place named after Abu Jihad, another tournament named after Abu Jihad, and at that tournament, the Fatah representative from the city spoke and said, "Our message to the children is that you should be going in the path of Abu Jihad." So it's clear that the Palestinians' goal in naming places for terrorists is to make them into role models.
So it's not just bringing up children, it's indoctrination throughout society, Palestinian society.
Absolutely. It is a very, very powerful indoctrination. When you see a name in lights, that becomes your hero, your role model. It's telling a child, you want a speedy track to heroism, kill an Israeli, kill a Jew. A speedy track to be someone who will be immortalized in Palestinian memory, kill a lot of Jews. So these are the messages that are being given to Palestinians, children, even until today.
Do you see any results in polls that indicates a change of attitude?
We see this type of indoctrination by the Palestinian Authority, together with the indoctrination to deny Israel's existence and to present a world in which Israel doesn't even exist to children. We find that 92% of Palestinian children don't recognize Israel's right to exist, and this is in Palestinian polls. 92% don't recognize Israel's right to exist, which, by the way, is extremely significant, because in those same polls, seniors who were asked, people over 50, 55, who were asked by the same pollsters, do you recognize Israel's right to exist? 55% recognized Israel's right to exist. So we see this major shift. The people who grew up years ago, before the Palestinian Authority, who were raised on a different education, they recognize Israel's right to exist. But the youth today, who grew up under the Palestinian Authority, absolutely and totally reject Israel's right to exist. And this, of course, is the foundation for the next war in the next generation.
Do you know how your neighboring countries such as Egypt and Jordan, Syria and so on regard this?
We have studied, in addition to studying Palestinian society and Palestinian school books, we've studied all of those school books, Jordanian, Egyptian, Syrian, and there are different degrees. I would say the worst of them is Syria by far. There's intense demonization in the Syrian school books of Jews and of Israelis. The Egyptians and Jordanians, actually the Jordanians are also very bad. Our study is old. Our study was about 10 years ago, but this was after the peace treaty with Israel. The Jordanian books were terrible, still explicitly called for Israel's destruction, explicitly defined the Jews as treacherous, as evil, etc. And the Egyptian books likewise didn't recognize Israel at all. The maps all show all of Israel as if only the state of Palestine exists. So, unfortunately, the peace treaty between Jordan and Israel and the peace treaty between Egypt and Israel did not lead to a change in education, did not lead to a cessation of demonization, neither from Jordan nor from Egypt.
Is there anything to indicate that a two-state solution would change that situation?
There's, unfortunately, a two-state solution under these conditions of a society that has been pumped with hatred for many years will just be, and many say this openly, will just be a springboard for the continuation of the conflict, with Israel will be at very, very, very dangerous borders. We could have a two-state solution if there would be an educational peace process first. We can't wait with the education. Every day that the Palestinian youth are seeing Israel in a demonized form is another nail in the coffin of peace.